So our concern is that the MSB formula, did it take into consideration the existing permits properly? Or do they rely on the planning board's projections at that point? And it's not clear because they haven't told us how they run their numbers. Once they run their numbers, and if they show that they've taken into account all of those, I would be fine with doing that. And are we talking 820 versus 840? And that's not a material change. The concern is that we don't know the number, and if we don't know the number, the townspeople will be concerned with it. That's my biggest issue, is having all the answers that are there so that people can't say you don't know what you're talking about. And the fact is you folks do know what you're talking about, but it's not clear from the state that they told you what you gave before is legitimate.
And I think that question will be answered, and it will be answered satisfactorily on Tuesday. I fully expect that.
You know, further, when we talked the other night, you know, at our meeting, we didn't discuss the fact that the superintendent had pushed back. Originally, they come back, or we had pushed back with 780 enrollment. And we had pushed back, and they got it to 820 after relooking at the numbers based on the projected development. So
I also believe the superintendent said that they did not ask for the local projections. They
Correct.
only looked at the permits.
right.
And then their formula accounts according to the permits, not according to projection numbers from the planning board or anybody else. I mean, I'm sure they'll clear that up.
But that wasn't available at the meeting. So had it done, we could have probably sidestepped it all, but their process wasn't outlined, and it would have been nice to have that.
There was some other things when we were looking at those numbers that were kind of in the demographics for the projections that we had, not based on the planning board, but just based on school attendance, lower down, coming up. They were kind of non-linear, some things going on in the school system with Lunenburg's residence demographics and kids, where it was dropping off quite a bit, and also with, I think, population that used to choice in Lunenburg, like Shirley, dramatically dropping off. So I think for anyone to get their head around all those, I don't know if the MSBA took that into account. I'm assuming those trends were part of our proposal because we looked at those spreadsheets quite a bit.
Well, they don't build the capacity for choice. Choice is something that only happens if we have the room for it.
Exactly, yeah. But I mean, I think that when people think about what the number of people attending the school is now, and then try to compare it with what they're building, not being aware of like the fact that X% of the last few years has been, choice in and whatnot, makes it hard to really understand unless we explained it real clearly.
In our agreement with Shirley, when they sent us 20, 25, 30 kids a year, that's ended essentially 2013. That's the last big class, so that has a big impact on the numbers. So, and then we didn't talk about the fact that just because it's designed for 820 students, doesn't mean that's all it can hold. It's best case, it's 22 students in the classroom, you get to 820. Get some growth, okay, so we have 25 in the classroom. It's still bigger classrooms than we have today, but we often have 25 kids in. So we could easily accommodate probably 900 students in the school. So we need to talk through more of that when we next meet the board of selectmen and kind of allay some of those fears. Plus the fact, of course, with the design, there's the opportunity to, if we need to at some point, all these things get built out, all these developments happen, magically the economy's better, magically everyone wants to buy new houses. We can put 200 more students in, put adding on, was it 8 classrooms? That was right. So there's plans there. I think we just need to start with that more to allay people's concerns long term.
Just one more comment related to that is, I mean, if this is, I think it was a great conversation, and it is good to get everybody on the same page at this stage around these numbers. If this remains a significant concern once all the numbers are laid out, there is the chance that we, start to grow in size. And it sounds like we have some good things built in, like the ability to expand the school. Just look at other potential buffers there, like, make sure the building reuse committee is aware of it, so that affects, decisions with patios. I mean, if that were to happen today, one of the buffers we would have would be reactivating the patios building. But just, yeah, I mean, like I said, so point is, if the concern stays, make sure they are, the building reuse committee is aware of it, and if people are interested in that as an option, that's thought about as they're making decisions there.
Also, you may never want to go there, and it may be totally something you don't want to even talk about, which is fine. But I mean, you also are creating with this plan some capacity at Turkey Hill and primary school. So in the absolute desperate year or a bubble year or something, there is, there's gonna be a little bit of wiggle room in your other facilities too. I think what's gonna be important, and I already said this, and it's the last time I'll say it, but I think it's gonna be important to have some sort of formal clarification in writing of the demographic thing. And as you talk about the demographic thing, I don't profess to know particularly, and I won't defend the MSBA's methodology. I just know from years of being around these things that demographic studies do have a lot that go into them. And there's, births versus deaths, and there's in-migration and out-migration, and there's all sorts of stuff besides housing starts. So it isn't just, the demographic study is not based on housing starts, it's all this other stuff. So somehow that has to all get in there, even if it's just little bullet points and say, remember, these things all got taken into account.
Sure. Like the question that people ask about, well, what about if you build a new school and more people want to be there? Well, there's actually a piece of the formula that addresses that.
Yeah. So I can't profess to know what's in it, but I just know it's more than housing starts.
Charlie, do you want to talk a little bit further about where we are?
Yeah, with the design, sure. Quickly, I thought I should update people on the design. A lot of you've seen this, so I won't take long. I feel like I'm starting to be a little bit of a broken record on some of this stuff, but I think it's important to keep the committee up to date. I'm not going to show the plans because the plans haven't significantly changed. But in terms of the schematic design, fundamentally, the site plan is pretty similar to what everybody has seen as well. And this is an updated site plan that shows the practice field down by Massachusetts Avenue. Otherwise, it's fairly similar to what we've been talking about. The area I was actually just talking about was right there. I almost feel like we could take that parking out and find a different place for it. I almost feel like that's another potential small, either practice field or small-sided soccer field or something. It's dead flat. I don't know if anybody uses it for something like that, but just throwing it out there. We're working, this doesn't reflect it, we're working on increasing the parking counts up here based on a back and forthing with John and the principals and the superintendent about actual staff and visitor parking needs, and I think we've under-designed it so far, and this also came up in the planning board meeting. So we are going back to the drawing board, so to speak, on that, and looking at that. Questions are coming up about the Passios parking, but we really, really don't know what to say about that, because until the reuse committee makes some sort of assessment, we're a little bit in the dark about that. But I think what we need to do is make sure we have adequate parking for the new school, for kids and for staff and visitors, and then figure out what we think we can fit at Passios, and that's just a starting point, and that's what we can do for now, until we know a little more about what the Passios needs are, or if they have any needs at all. That's obviously up in the air. So those are sort of site plan things that are going forward. Otherwise, it looks a lot like all the ones you've seen before. We have been working on the exterior. We are in the process of working on a cost estimate now. So of course, we've had to develop the design to give us a little more sense of what the building might look like. And I think you've seen images before. We've presented sort of, oops, that's not the one I wanted to show you. We had presented previously sort of overall plan, roof plan things that give you a sense of the massing of it, which is what that is. And this shows so this is that, and that wing is that, and this wing is this. So this is really the high school, the middle school, and sort of the community building, if you will. Sort of these three buildings. And we've done these peaked roofs on the two classroom wings to give them some scale and character, and they're slightly different lengths, and they have a stair in the middle that's glass. And those will sort of look slightly barn-like, which we've talked about. They do a nice job, too, of hiding a lot of the rooftop units that are up there. And then the bigger building is the larger flat roof where the theater and the gym is. And then the cafeteria also is a peaked roof so that it has some character and scale. There was and then the greenhouse is off the end. There have been questions about, and then there's a garden here. There have been questions about, how many peaked roofs can we have? Are there life cycle advantages? And I think we've answered that question a couple of times, but the reality is that these buildings, when they're this big, rarely have all pitched roofs. Even if you think you're looking at a pitched roof, you're looking at a flat roof, it just goes up a little ways and then it's flat on the top. Furthermore, there's always additional construction costs associated with pitched roofs, capital costs. And with the technology around flat roofs, which aren't actually flat, they're pitched to drain, the kind of warranties you can get, I think frankly peaked roofs are more likely to leak than a good membrane roof is. So we like the idea of having some peaked roofs on the building to add character and scale to it. However, I think from a constructability point of view and from a maintenance point of view, you'll probably be pretty happy to have some flat roofs as well, and we think it's going to keep the cost down. And we'll see what we get for an estimate, but we've done the analysis over and over again of pitched roofs versus flatter roofs, and the flat roofs consistently save real money. So that's kind of been our perspective so far. There was a question too about are there going to be issues around water or snow getting trapped or anything, and I don't think there will be based on the design we have. It's very simple. It's got a lot, basically consistent heights, and I think it will work out pretty well. Oops, that's not what I want to show you either. I've got them all backwards, forgive me. I want to start from the front. So that was an early idea for looking right here, sort of the cafeteria in the entrance. So that's the cafeteria, the nice big window looking in so you get a sense of character of what's going on in there. I think that's a nice kind of public gesture. It's a public room. There's a lot going on in there. When there's stuff going on, it gives the community a sense of the school and what's in it. And kids will get a nice daylit environment for eating. Plus, we're going to make sure we have an outdoor dining area, which would be really nice. And then there's an entrance, the main entrance, and then I think we can have a very nice landscaped courtyard with benches and walls and trees and paving, and I think that would be really terrific and a really nice place to hang out. So I think the front of the building can be really, really terrific. And then this image is standing essentially right here. I don't know where exactly here. Looking back at the cafeteria, back at the library, which is there, back at the greenhouse, which is there, and back at the edge of the middle school, which is there. And you really are downhill, as you know. I mean, we're a whole story. When you're here, you're a full story lower than the first floor of the new school. So you're looking up, but you're looking up at the library, and you're looking up at the greenhouse, and you're looking up at the wing of the middle school. So that's that image sort of looking up the hill. And one of the things we're trying very hard to do is preserve as much of that nice grove of existing trees that are there. Because I think it's really nice to preserve existing trees when you can, because you have mature planting right away, which is really great. So that's our hope there. So I think that's a kind of a nice view. And then there's one final view we will show you for now, which is this is looking at the end of the middle school, right here, and this courtyard. So you have, again, those two sort of barn forms with a stair in the middle. And this is very nice. I mean, the kids come down these corridors, the classrooms, and then there's this daylit stair at the end for moving up and down, which is a very pleasant way to move. And then a nice courtyard here, which I think we can do. We showed some boulders or something to sit on, but we can do some sort of an outdoor classroom, which can be a place for instruction, or it can be a place to sit. I think that's a really nice scale outdoor room, essentially, that we're creating there, like a courtyard, which is pretty terrific too. And that'll have a view back down onto the turf field. And those are art classrooms, which will have direct access to the outside, which is pretty nifty too. So we're developing, this is all assumed to be masonry, brick. We maybe will do, we may do a CMU on the gym piece just for cost reasons. Good, very high quality aluminum windows, standing seam metal roof. You know, those are sort of, that's sort of some metal panels around where the curtain wall is. That's kind of the palette of most of the public schools we end up doing. Because they're affordable and they're high, they're low maintenance. They're what you have on your schools now. I mean, there's no secret to it. So I think it's a nice start, but I just wanted to share that with you because this is sort of what's going into building this cost estimate, and I wanted to make sure everybody saw the outside of it as we move forward. So that was. Would anybody like? I have 11 by 17. Anybody like some? You have. Doesn't have a site plan, but it has
Charlie, just for my knowledge, what is CMU?
Oh, for this concrete block. But we could do ground face CMU with a sealer in it that should hold up pretty well. And it's a good product. It can help with cost. So we're looking at that just for that one. The one box that you don't see so much, sort of not so much in the public view.
Okay. And now the deadlines coming up are, we have an MSBA submission.
Yeah.
If we could just talk ourselves through the next
Sure.
couple of mileposts.
Sure, so Charlie mentioned the cost estimate. So right now, the cost estimators, meaning Shawmut and Tafe's cost estimators, A&C, are currently looking at the schematic design plans and working on that cost estimate. The drawings, the plans were released to them in the beginning of August. The estimates are due back on September 5th, so right after Labor Day. Then what will happen is the two estimators, the teams, will really get together to reconcile. So there'll be some questions to make sure that they're both in line. So that's sort of like a full day meeting where the two estimators really go through everything line by line. The MSBA requires that the cost estimate information, as well as a list of any value management items, are submitted to them at least 2 weeks before the board submission date. So what that means is that the cost estimate information would need to be submitted to them by September 19th, because the full schematic design package is due to them on October 3rd. So I expect, Charlie, this is one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, would you expect a working group meeting sometime after the estimates are reconciled and before that submission? Or,
That's fine.
yeah,
I mean, we can do that. I don't know if there's a vote required for that.
not a vote, but I just thought maybe a working group meeting.
Yeah, just
sort
to
of
brief,
go-
just to bring everybody up to speed.
Bring everyone
absolutely.
up to speed.
Yep, that'd be good.
I'm sorry, one more time, the October date?
October
Three.
3rd.
So Thursday.
So that submission, the schematic design submission on October 3rd, is in preparation for the November 20th MSBA Board of Directors meeting. And at that meeting, that's when the project scope and budget are approved by the MSBA. From there, the town, the district then has, by the MSBA regulations, 120 days to schedule the town vote for the project. So I know that's one of the things that I think Mike wanted to talk about tonight.
Yeah, we're gonna do that right after that. What would be the outside then, if the schematic went to them on the 3rd of October?
Yes.
Have you kept it up what the end of 120 days is?
Oh, no, it's
So, from the 20th.
it's 120 days from the board meeting,
The
So
20th.
November
From November
20th.
20th,
Yeah.
120 days.
yes, from the board,
20th.
November 20th, the board meeting, right?
I'm sorry. I didn't know how to shut this off.
So it's sort of mid-February, right?
My mother with her phone.
Brand new phone. It rang for the first time and I tell them, how do I pick it up?
And they don't come with instruction manuals. They just figure you know.
So it's from, it was from the 20th of
November.
November.
You got 3 months from the middle of November, which gets you to the middle of February. It's gotta be done by the middle of February. The approval.
Got it.
However, there are other schedule
Considerations.
considerations besides
Like
just
how
that.
fast we can get the rest of the
Like-
project done.
Like actually getting it built.
So what I wanted to do is just start a discussion. I don't know that we need to take any action tonight, but to actually just have a discussion around the idea. We had been talking for quite some time about a December town meeting. And, you know, given a lot of things that need to happen for that town meeting, it looks like it's possible, but it really, it kind of, it jams the process to the point where there's no margin of error. So that's one factor in why I'm introducing the discussion. The other factor is that, you know, frankly, the longer we thought about it, do we want to have this public discussion, this public vote, you know, basically in the midst of the holidays? So we had some discussions about what would happen if we were to move the request for town meeting into January. And, you know, the only thing obviously that it will affect is how soon then after that we can get the project, you know, really rolling. So, you know, if we lose a month, we think that we can probably figure out a way to keep on to the schedule by doing it that way. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, we always make things work. It just squeezes.
Yep.
Squeezes it. But obviously, we will do what we need to do. I mean, in terms of getting started, we can get started the day after there's an approval. It's not an issue. But it does squeeze the design phase some. It may, we haven't analyzed it because we don't know what we're talking about yet.
Right.
To be honest. But, you know, it's going to squeeze the design phase. It could put into question the summer start on the fields and the site, would be my only concern. I don't think it would impact on the overall building so much, because that wasn't going to be really starting in earnest till the fall. But I can't comment further because I don't really know what we're talking about. And the only other comment I'd make is that if you build a lot of momentum and interest in this, in the project this fall, there's probably one argument that you want to go ahead and get the vote in the fall while people are engaged and interested, and not to have a month off over the holidays before they come back. But I don't know if that's up to you guys. That's just
I think that would be my question. I see what you're saying about the holidays and trying to get that done in December, but I guess what I wonder is how early in January would we be able to have it? Because would we just lose all of that momentum for 2 weeks while everybody, I mean, school's out for 2 weeks. You know, how far into January would we have to move it so that we could kind of hit the ground rolling and get people back up to speed?
Well, that actually does beg a question. I don't have it in front of me. When are the vacation dates this year?
On the 23rd of December.
It's 12/23, and we return when?
The 6th.
Yeah, so it's actually December 20th, Friday, December 20th is the last day of school.
Okay.
So I'm just throwing
Because the
out
other
there, I
piece
don't
of
know
this
how
is
much
that-
we'd get done in that period of time, and then we come back in
Well,
January.
what is the constraint on your end in terms of the setting it up?
The issue is that
Ask the town manager to respond.
the town meeting warrant has to be in the hands of the voters 14 days prior to the town meeting. And we need at least 10 days when you talk about putting the warrant together and getting it to the post office and mailing it. So we can't really finalize anything until after that November 20th meeting.
Oh, and then
So
doesn't give
then-
us enough time unless we
Right,
have it like
that's-
on Christmas Eve.
Right.
Exactly. It's the week before Christmas, basically. is
Yeah,
what we
yeah,
would be
so it's all
talking
those
about.
logistic timelines that would
Yeah.
push us so late in December that
It doesn't make sense.
nobody
2
would
weeks,
come.
3 weeks, 4 weeks. It'd be like 4 weeks is December 18th.
So the question, is it possible would it be possible for us to put something, a best guess on the warrant, and like, how much is that likely to change based
I
on?
don't
But
think
we'll
you
have the
put-
number.
You don't have to put anything on the warrant other than that you're having a town meeting for the purposes of vote, right? Or do you have to put the literal language?
Well, no, we just have to have the warrant article, but I think the discussion that we had in the meeting a couple of weeks ago was how much information you wanted to have in the warrant. And it seemed like having more information in the warrant so that people weren't trying to understand the numbers when they were at the meeting. And that, you know, that's key. There can't be any mistakes, so that has to be, all that has to be perfect.
Oh, it has to be, why can't there be mistakes, Mary? Like, why could?
If there are mistakes in any of the numbers, it's gonna take us more than one try to get this through. I mean, that has to be.
Even if we have like a disclaimer that says these numbers may change, then we can talk, you know, people can study something, we can talk to the delta there.
I mean, I think you can do that. I just don't,
That's not
I
a.
think
People aren't
you
gonna
need
vote
to
for that.
decide. Yeah, you certainly can do that.
Is it possible? Yes, people aren't gonna vote for that.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll, you know, if there's not a good rationale for why numbers have changed, people won't vote for it. I think what's the thing that could change the numbers? It's a meeting with the MSBA?
Nothing will
Or
change it
just
after,
process it.
nothing will change it after the, well, here's the other question.
Here's what we get from the MSBA is what the number, the final number is, and what their participation is. We won't know their participation until that process is finished.
Could we go with I mean, do we give the town a range? I guess you got two competing goals. One is like the accuracy of what we present to the town and like the presentation of, you know, clear presentation of the data for the town at town meeting. And the other competing factors we've discussed is the scheduling, right? And they're both pretty big trade-offs. I guess I'm wondering if there's something we can do with the numbers, not fudging the numbers, but like just be open with the town. Hey, look, the best we can get you in the warrant for the meeting is, you know, plus or, you know, this number plus or minus, you know, precise number to be brought in at town meeting. Here's why, you know. That way we have a chance of keeping on the schedule, I guess.
I mean, we'll make the schedule work. Let's not, we're gonna have to make the schedule work.
Okay.
We don't have a choice. I mean, I wouldn't want it to be, I don't want to falsely say we can't achieve the schedule. We'll have to achieve the schedule. I would just be more concerned that it's totally your guys' instinct. I have no clue. It would only just be this issue of losing, somebody having this month where everybody goes away and is distracted before they come back for the meeting.
And it may not even be as much as a month. I mean, as we said, the earliest we could probably do it, given the schedule that we've talked about now, is the 18th of December. If we talked about the first week of January, or the, beginning of the second week of January, or whatever, I mean, we're really only talking about 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah, no, we'll be
3
fine with
weeks.
schedule. I think it's more about your guys
And
deciding
I
the
think-
best possible time to do it, to sell the project,
To get people out.
to get people out.
We've got people that are distracted by Christmas shopping and
The holiday season.
holiday season and people visiting, and then comes the school vacation, which people may be going away. Again, we don't have to make a decision tonight. I came away with my discussion with the town manager being very concerned that, in our desire to get it done, we not think about some of the implications.
Okay, no, that makes sense.
What's the lead time on the ballot? Because that's probably even a bigger question.
The ballot is probably 30 days. 30 days tops.
Okay, so I mean, we need actual real numbers for the ballot,
Right,
because there is no going back,
that's true.
so.
But that,
And wait,
we
that, we can schedule that, what, 2 weeks? A week or 2 weeks after town meeting?
Within 45 days, I believe, it has to occur within 45 days.
So, but ideally, when would we want, because you have 2 weeks lead time that they have to have the warrant.
Yeah.
And then if you wait another week or two, essentially, I mean, you need to get those ballots going before the warrant goes out, right? Is that kind of the time frame? Unless we would actually wait 45 days after town meeting.
Right, I think when I talked to the town clerk, we were thinking the election would be like the week after town meeting, and I think we talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I ran that by her, she thought that would work. as well. I mean, the ballots, the printing of the ballots, I don't think that's something that we're gonna do locally, that's not gonna take a long time. So we were planning on having it as soon as a week after. Or, you know, if the meeting was Tuesday, I think we even talked about doing it that Saturday.
Saturday, yeah.
Saturdays are great, because everybody can make time to do it. Saturdays are a really good time for a vote.
All right, again, we don't have to make a decision tonight, I just want to introduce the, you know, the topic, so that when we get to the point where we need to think about it. Because we have been talking here generally about December, and now I've started to say publicly December, or maybe January. So,
One question as I think about January, a snow date, so in the event something happened on the day the vote was scheduled and it was a major snowstorm, is there like a second date for, like, how does that work? If people couldn't literally get out of their houses to come vote?
Can we go around?
You can't have a rain date for an
Like,
election.
no rain date?
No.
Okay. And I'm just thinking we had really, January is usually the snowy month, so I'm just thinking ahead.
no, it was a good thought, we'll just have to figure out how to get all those snowcats up here. Pick people up.
Okay.
Anything else anybody else want to weigh in on this? Any concerns or questions?
Well, I'd only encourage you, as I count out the months, to do it as early. If you're doing January, do it on the earlier side of January.
Absolutely.
Would be good.
Okay, our next meeting is September the 18th at 7 p.m.
No, we have school committee that night, is that a joint meeting? School committee?
Wait.
Or the 4th and the 18th for school committee?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a
So
couple
it's a joint meeting or it is school?
Hold on.
It is school committee, yeah.
Okay, we could go to the following week, which is the 25th.
Yeah, I think we put that out and didn't catch that.
Didn't you say that you wanted us
Wait, I thought you had that.
to review a package before you
I thought
submit
that
it
meeting
on the
was scheduled
19th?
for the 30th? That's what
I have-
Is it the 30th?
I have, for some reason, I have us down for the 11th.
Oh, we all have different.
Well, yes, they do need to vote on the package. There needs to be a meeting in advance of the MSBA.
Right. And that was supposed to be the 11th.
Position, but the 11th is too early
Okay.
for the actual MSBA submission. So I had thought that you had mentioned the
September
30th,
30th?
Monday the 30th.
Okay.
Which doesn't, I mean, it could be the week of the 23rd, it could be the week of, it could be the 30th, but that would make the most sense in terms of soliciting the vote from this committee.
We run into what on Monday nights? Who has a conflict on Mondays?
I sometimes do, but I don't on the 30th, I shouldn't, because it's,
Okay,
yeah.
September 30th?
September the 30th it is then. At that point, we will have the cost estimate.
You'll have an estimate, you'll have the completed schematic package, and you'll need, as I said, to vote officially that approvals document that has to go with the
submission.
submission. So you have to approve it and sign it,
Just like the previous
just like the
submissions.
previous submission, same.
Same process, the local actions and certification that we do.
And we'd have to turn that right around so we could get it in on the 3rd.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, in terms of the public forums, I was going to have a discussion tonight, but with the absence of the superintendent, what I'd like to do is just for the superintendent and I to put together a proposed schedule when she returns, and we'll circulate it. Because we're targeting various groups, but I really need to have that discussion with the superintendent before we start scheduling anything. Community outreach, as far as I know, there is still no formed group yet. I'm expecting there will be one, but not yet. Any other business before us?
Yeah, I had a couple of things.
Go ahead.
One is I just wanted to ask a couple of questions based on the presentation on the schematic design.
Sure.
So thanks for putting this together and for explaining the trade-offs between the pitched and the flat roof. I'm not an expert in, architectural, structural design or anything. I do have some questions, though. I think that is something as boring as the roof, maybe you may get a surprising amount of interest about the roof in the town, because when you talk about sort of where the building failure is in the high school for the last decade or whatever, it always starts with the roof that leaks and all that. So you
That's
mentioned,
because it wasn't properly, well, it was maintained, but the money needed to do what needed to be done, which is to replace the roof, was never forthcoming.
Well, there was that, and the decision to put off fixing it because
Because
know what
we didn't know what we were gonna do with the building.
So it's a 20-year roof that's on, what, 29th year? Something like that, John?
28.
28th year, so it's by design, not a good design, but by design that the roof hasn't been replaced.
Yeah, it wasn't because of the roof itself was designed to fail. It did exactly what it was supposed to do.
no, I understand, okay, so that's good to know, and it'll be good for the town to know that. So you mentioned there's warranties on the membrane roofs now. What do they look like?
They're 15 or 20-year warranties typically, and they warranty, they tend to warranty material and installation workmanship. I mean, but what they don't warranty is somebody walks up there and steps on a nail and puts a hole in it, the manufacturer doesn't come back under the warranty. So the reality is that the warranties have some meaning but not ironclad meaning. However, the technology of these roofs has gotten very sophisticated, they're very good. And, a well-designed and well-installed roof should hold up very effectively for its intended, for its, typical lifespan.
Yeah, we've had to do repairs on both, for the primary school, both the flat roof and the shingle.
Right.
There's always stuff going on.
Right, there's always stuff going on with roofs. And as I said, a big flat roof is actually there are the least amount of possible places for water to get in on a big, large, flat roof versus pitched roofs with eaves and flashings and places they need other things. And one big flat roof with a big piece of rubber on it is actually a very effective enclosure.
Okay. As far as maintenance goes, John, like snow removal, they don't have to get up there and...
No, these are all designed for for significant snow loading. There would never, these buildings are built like battleships.
Okay.
Okay, so snow load on the flat roof.
Never, they will not, absolutely not guarantee it would not be an issue.
Yeah, I know, and with the pitch roofs, I mean, just maybe the pitch roofs, draining right onto the flat roof, that's,
Again.
as long as you're
don't
confident.
view it- Yeah, we're completely confident.
Okay, good, cool. Yep, thanks for entertaining that. I had one other question. It wasn't about the design. That was my only question about design, because the town's been propagandized with roofs for a long time. Well, not, with real facts about roofs. Around communication stuff. I'm wondering, so it's great that this stuff was put out on Facebook and Twitter. I'm wondering if there has been a lot posted there. I'm not an expert in these things, but I think like the more you post to it, the more it kind of enters people's consciousness. Like we got it out there, there's not really much reason for people to go back to it. I'm wondering if we could, somebody come up with a plan to just like, at least once a week, post something there, put something interesting there to keep it fresh in people's minds, I guess.
Well, I've taken on the job of monitoring the site and answering any questions that come up from people. And there have been people that have submitted questions to the Facebook site, which I've answered. So there has been activity on the site. But you're right about the fact that, if there's anything new that we can, any way we can figure out a way to put something new up just to get it back up on people's radar.
Yeah, I think I'll start doing that too. So for example, last Friday I posted the FAQs to the website. So that's easily a tweet or a Facebook update. FAQs now available on the website. So those are all things. I've been waiting for Loxie to get back. She really cares about the Facebook and the Twitter. So I wanted to touch base with her about the strategy for posting.
Okay.
But definitely that's really good feedback and you're absolutely right. Just so everyone knows, before the meeting started, I checked to see how many likes we had on Facebook, and we were up to 183. And Twitter, not as popular, but I think we have about 9 followers. But the Facebook page really grew really fast, so thank you to those who have liked it and have shared it with their friends, because it seems to be working pretty well. So,
Yeah.
it's good.
Well, that's the strategy. I mean, if you like the page, then what you should do is to go into your contacts in town and suggest to them to like the page.
No, I have like, yeah, I don't have a lot of contacts on Facebook, but for people who do that, it's a great
Yeah.
thing. But even like, you know, like some of this stuff is really nice, you know, renderings, whatever. I would say leak them out in dribs and drabs so that
Yep.
you just get people going there day after day, whatever.
No, that's really good feedback, thank you.
Yeah, we, on we have the video for the, looks at the high school's existing conditions. The whole permit that's been completed and the editing is in process, so it should be available for preview next week.
Great.
Great.
This is just a kind of a tour of the existing conditions and the issues around the existing building. Cool.
I would think if we can get some of those updates for Facebook and Twitter next week. I think
Mhm.
prior to this week, people are still vacationing, and this week everybody's trying to figure out how to get back to school anyway, and how to make it all work and fill out paperwork. So I'm assuming we haven't really lost a bunch, but if we
Mhm.
could get, you know,
Back to
some of
school.
that going next week as people are getting to open houses and really starting to think about it and talk about it.
The other thing that, I don't know how we would go about doing that, but there are other community Facebook pages that we could also utilize to point to our own page,
Mhm,
like the Lunenburg, Massachusetts
Mhm.
page and the Lunenburg School and Community page.
mhm.
We could say, check out our page. We just posted something.
I have a question about the open houses, actually, because originally that was gonna be kind of the big push was around open house.
Absolutely.
Um,
Do we have a schedule of those yet?
The 18th is, or no, the 19th is the high schools.
Yeah, the other ones are
We
early.
definitely want to do something at that, and again, if it winds up with you and I having that discussion.
I think the first one at Turkey Hill though is the 9th for 4th and 5th grade. And
The
I want-
9th of September?
Yeah, and I want to say the 6th and 7th grade it's that week. I don't know what the date is for that one. And then the primary school, that must be divided to kindergarten, first and second and third or something like that, but I know one of them is the 11th. So those open houses are, that's only 2 weeks away. And then the high school is the last one.
Okay, and the high school, what was that date again?
The 19th.
So we really need to hit the other schools, because the reality is the high school.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
to be gone.
yeah, it's the
Yeah,
Turkey Hill and the primary.
And I want to say I don't have the calendar on me, but I know they're the 9th and the 11th, but there's 2 other dates.
Okay.
Each of those, I think.
If you could just, if you
Yeah, I'll just look at
can,
the calendar. and
just,
I'll look.
just give me an email on that, that'd be great. All right, well, we'll just have to figure out how to put this together. I mean, we're basically going to be doing the same presentation, but obviously, we're not gonna be asking Charlie to come along to those, but.
We
Well,
should be
you're not
sitting right
getting-
next to the PTO.
For the open house, that's just a tour, right? It means people wandering around, right? That's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say.
Yeah, it's
What
a
do
bit
you
of a
want?
tour, but I thought originally we were looking at maybe some pamphlets that would go out and things like that you.
Well, yeah, well, I think you should schedule totally separate from the open houses. You should have public forums
Yeah.
at the school where you notify every parent.
Yeah, we were gonna do that too. We
Yeah,
just
but
thought that.
The open houses, I think,
Put these
people
on,
are
yeah.
distracted with other things. They may not
Yeah.
want to listen to a presentation. However, if those were in the front hall, close to the door, and everybody saw them as they came in, they might go, "Ooh, isn't that nice?"
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
PTO
That
sets
makes,
up a
that makes
table.
sense.
Yeah, not
Pamphlets,
presenting to each
yeah.
one,
Just
but
a
setting up.
soft sell at the open
Just
house.
that, and a
So-
list of the
and I-
website and
The
Facebook
FAQ,
page.
You can
the
print out the
FAQ
FAQs
and a cover page at the website.
maybe a few of us
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Questions should there be
Yeah.
asked.
So
Okay.
what I guess we need to know is when the first one is for sure, although it sounds like it's.
Turkey Hill Middle
gonna be
School will be the
nice,
9th.
So that we can get you boards out here before then. We don't have to have project run out here.
Thank you for bringing that up.
And then presumably you can move from school to school, right?
I think I can pull that off.
Yeah.
And hopefully you can find some, you guys have any tripods or anything?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll get them out here before
Or just leave
before
it.
the ninth. Yeah, we'll update them. I want to update the site plan, and we'll just keep working on it. I'd rather keep working on it.
Do you think it's possible to get additionals that we could just leave static at, say, the public library and at town hall?
Absolutely. And a lot of times when communities have asked for them, they've asked for them a little bit smaller too, so they're a little more manageable. But you can do them to half that size, and they're still decent size, and you can actually put them up on a bulletin board or get them on a shelf or somewhere where they're not quite so big. These are pretty big, take up a lot of room. So a lot of times people ask for them half size.
Okay.
I think Loxie had generated a list based on feedback from this group and others of 7 places in town where she wanted to have boards permanent, like, on display during the fall.
So it sounds like we need 7.
Right, well, we'll
work it out.
We'll
We'll work it out.
Okay.
Another thing that might be interesting is to see these things, if we can get it, flashing up on our public access channel, like, just seeing some of these shots would definitely get some people's eyeballs. Some people just kind of sit down and chill at night and watch the public access, and this is,
Subliminal flashing.
yeah, something's on the living room channel. You hadn't been reached by.
I wanna know what
other
cocktail
channel.
there
This
is.
would catch your attention. What the heck is that?
Right.
One of the things I thought I should be working on would be is kind of answers the FAQ, or what does it cost to operate the building?
Yeah.
I've also got another piece that I'm trying to work on with the Green Communities Task Force. We're looking at the overall town's energy usage and trying to anticipate, how much savings that we will actually see in energy coming out of new construction for the high school. Because when we looked at it, we thought it was going to be pretty substantial. Only because the high school is so much glass.
My only concern about, don't be disappointed if your energy use cost doesn't really drop, because the problem is with these older buildings, they didn't meet code, so you didn't have, now to meet code, you have constant ventilation and stuff. So even if they're much more efficient, sometimes the energy costs don't drop significantly. However, your deferred maintenance drops radically, right?
True.
In other words, you no longer have all these maintenance costs.
I guess the question was, do you have any
Yeah,
data
they'll try
on a
to
square
model-
foot basis?
Yes, they will be
On
trying-
comparable type buildings?
Yep.
Because I think we're going to find that we are going to see pretty substantial savings.
Okay. You may, I'm just saying, sometimes people are disappointed. They go, oh gosh, it doesn't cost half as much to run. It's like, no, it costs pretty much the same amount to run, but it's also a lot bigger building.
Yeah.
So-
We looked at our operating costs in Lunenburg Primary School, and so when we looked at that, we said, well, it could be pretty substantial.
Yeah,
And that'll be a pushback. A lot of people will believe that we're gonna pay a lot more for energy. as
yeah, no, you
opposed to-
shouldn't do that. You
Yeah.
wouldn't do that, I don't think. I'm just saying that current buildings have a much higher usage because constant ventilation
I'm
and
sorry,
air
do
changes and all those
people
things.
believe that we'd be paying more for energy in a new building?
Yes.
Because
Don't
it's
do
so
that
much
argument.
larger.
Because of,
Because it's bigger, because of whatever.
No, I mean, it's gonna be a high, super efficient building. It's gonna have, the envelope will be very efficient. The condensing boilers will be super efficient. We'll have lighting controls, et cetera, et cetera. So should be a very efficient building. I'm just saying it also will have fans running all the time and stuff like that.
We'll just want to present that. 'Cause, you know,
September 5th is the first open house.
September 5th?
which one is that?
6th and 7th grade.
No problem.
Killing me.
Yeah, okay, I thought you.
That's how it goes.
Sweet. Basically. So you want to
So
say
that's-
this?
That's a week from
I
tomorrow.
just had an idea. Does,
So that's obviously a Turkey Hill.
It's in the evening?
would it be possible also maybe to have a TV where the presentation could loop in the lobby for the open house?
That would be great.
Because that's another way to,
I think for the open houses, we probably just want something
Just the board,
static and
okay.
then talking, answering questions
okay.
personally.
Yeah, there's
think
not
everybody
much
usually-
time that people aren't in the
Yeah, that's pretty much.
classroom
Yeah,
or
well,
somewhere with, yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And if that were, I know at the high school, if there were 2 spots, one in the caf where people would go during a study hall or whatever, parents that is, and then one in the lobby where people could.
What time do the open houses start?
6.
Any other business?
One quick question, back to the, sort of, to John's point about the energy cost. Is there been any, it's kind of a latent process, I think, but is there, was there any thought, is MSBA pay for putting photovoltaics on top of this building? We talked about doing it on top of Turkey Hill, I think they went on top of Turkey Hill, or is it going?
We have 100.
That's been a question a lot of people have asked. We have never been able to fit the photovoltaics into a project budget. The MSBA project budgets simply don't support the capital cost. However, because of chips anyway, but also because of good practice, we always make preparations for them. In other words, we run the conduit up there, we make sure that they can be mounted up there, we make sure that the conduit ties into the right place in the building with the right switchgear, and then the community can go ahead and get the photovoltaics after the fact. And that's really typical anyway, because there always, there used to be incentive grants out there. Now there's all this sort of design, build, lease programs that are out there, because there's a lot of companies interested, because there's a lot of tax credits for that, so there's a lot of companies interested in doing that. So the community certainly should be able to find a way to do photovoltaics on your school buildings if you want to.
Currently, there's probably not going to be, under the current rules, there probably will not be any net metering credit available to be had unless the state does bump the requirements on the utilities because of other projects that are already going on in town. You know, so it might get bumped in the future, and then we might have the capability of putting them on in the future. But right now, with the projects that the town already has in the pipeline,
But if you do one of these lease deals, you get money back, they're basically leasing your roof.
yeah, but we would still need it net metered, I think, just because of the way we use energy. Unless it was really small.
So the answer is probably not in the first initial construction, because the MSBA's budgets don't support it.
But you also said that you designed in,
We made the
support to make
provision,
them friendly to.
the provisions for it,
Okay,
correct. And we've identified the locations so that it's clear where they would go in the future, et cetera, et cetera.
Excellent.
The other thing related to energy efficiency and mass chips is, as a result of this project being mass chips, the MSBA will be giving the district an incentive point. So that helps towards the, two points, towards the base reimbursement rate. So they actually are providing you with that incentive, and essentially your reimbursement rate is increased because this is a mass chips product. So that might be a good talking point too when you're out and about.
Which means that we're now looking at potential 55.53, that's a reimbursement.
Great.
So we won't get that exact number until that November 20th meeting.
Right.
But you can make a pretty reasonable, you can make a reasonable guess at it. The thing you usually don't,
Is
you know the
maintenance.
chips, so the maintenance one you don't know,
It's-
although they're always very similar.
Between 0 and 2.
Right, and I think it's usually a 1.
Yeah,
I don't
so,
think, I think it's rare a school gets a 2.
right. So we can check with the MSBA.
Do they get half points?
Yeah.
John did a
Do they get
really
half
great
No
report.
matter how good.
Yeah, so what the MSBA does is they provide a maintenance score to the
Right.
district, and that, whatever that is between 0 and 2, whatever that number is, that adds towards the base reimbursement rate. So we'll get the 2 points for chips, we'll get a point for CM at risk, and whatever that maintenance, so that right now is what the unknown is. We could check with the MSBA to see if that's something that they could give to us in advance of project scope and budget, just for planning purposes, for us to have a more, feel more comfortable with that reimbursement rate will be in advance of November 20th. So we can definitely check in with them, but we may not be able to get that answer, but we'll try.
I forgot about the CM at risk, so that
Yeah.
actually puts us at 56.5.
And so that's pretty safe, at the 56.53.
Something for maintenance.
You will get some.
No, you will get something.
We'll be at least
They just
57.
don't give anybody, they don't give anybody 100. Nobody gets an A+.
Yeah.
It's the MSBA, they don't give out A+.
And they don't grade on the curve. Anything else? Any other business before
Contract
us?
question, you all said?
Any other comments? questions? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Uh,
Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you.